Lieutenant Han stood tall as the alien ship landed. The massive vessel touched down on Korean soil, its metal skin gleaming in the morning sun. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Alliance. Han adjusted his uniform and took a deep breath. As Earth's chosen military liaison, he carried a heavy weight on his shoulders. "Remember your training," Commander Sol said beside him. "Show strength but not threat." Han nodded. The ship's door opened with a hiss of escaping air. 3 aliens walked out. They looked almost human, except for their blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed too large. Behind them came 2 massive beings with thick, armored hides. The Vekrans, Han remembered from the briefing files. A warrior species, proud and old. "Welcome to Earth," said the Korean president, stepping forward with open arms. The lead alien bowed slightly. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Alliance. I am Ambassador Lur. We look forward to bringing your world into our community." The formalities continued for an hour. Han watched and listened. The aliens spoke of trade, technology, and defense. They talked of threats in the galaxy that humans knew nothing about. Later, at the welcome dinner, Han found himself seated next to one of the Vekrans. The alien was eating human food with obvious distaste. "Your weapons," the Vekran said suddenly, looking at Han. "My scan shows you carry a projectile gun. Very primitive." Han smiled politely. "It serves our needs. For now," the Vekran said. He tapped a small device on his wrist. A hologram appeared showing a rifle-like weapon. "This fires energy bolts that can cut through steel. One day your people will use real weapons." At the other end of the table, an Alliance scientist was speaking to Earth's military leaders. "Your battle tactics are interesting but simple," she said. "When you join the Alliance, we will teach you proper warfare." One of the Earth generals smiled. "We have thousands of years of military history. The teachings of Sun Tzu, the strategies of Alexander and Genghis Khan, the discipline of the Roman legions and Hwarang warriors, these foundations still guide us." The alien laughed, a chirping sound that drew everyone's attention. "Legends and stories. Every young species clings to their myths of great warriors. You will learn that technology, not tales of single fighters, wins wars." Han felt his face grow hot, but kept his expression neutral. Beside him, the Vekran made a rumbling sound. "The human speaks of blade wielders and primitive tacticians," the Vekran said to Han. "Tales told to children. Your Earth legends claim single warriors could defeat hundreds. We have heard similar myths from a dozen worlds." Han thought of his grandfather, who had taught him the old ways of Korean martial arts. "Some legends have truth in them," he said carefully. The Vekran laughed, a deep, grinding sound. "No, a warrior with a sword cannot defeat one with a plasma cannon. This is simply fact." Later that night, Han reported to Commander Sol in a secure room. "They think we're children," Han said. "They laugh at our military history." Sol nodded slowly. "Let them laugh. They see only our technology, not our spirit, not our adaptability." He looked out the window at the alien ship. "Humans have always been underestimated, Lieutenant. We look weak until we are tested." "What do you think they're not telling us?" Han asked. "Many things," Sol said. "I suspect the galaxy is more dangerous than they admit. Why else would they seek new allies so eagerly?" He turned to Han. "You will go with them when they leave. Learn everything you can about their weapons, their tactics. But never forget the lessons of our ancestors." Han nodded. "I won't, sir." "Good," Sol said, "because I suspect a day will come when the Alliance learns that Earth's legends aren't just stories." He smiled slightly. Their warnings. 3 months had passed since Lieutenant Han left Earth. Now he stood in the giant training room of the Alliance battleship Eternal Light *. 20 aliens from different worlds trained around him. They moved with quick steps, their hands on strange weapons. Han wore the same gray uniform as the others, but he felt different. The aliens were stronger, faster, and used to the ship's lighter gravity. But Han did not give up. "Human, your turn at the combat sim," shouted Instructor Mav, a tall alien with 4 arms. Han stepped onto the training platform. Across from him stood a veteran officer named Rock. Rock's thick skin looked like stone, and his eyes showed no fear. "Level 3 combat scenario," said Mav. "Energy weapons and basic shields only." Han picked up the Alliance standard blaster. It felt strange in his hands, much lighter than Earth guns. The room changed around them as the simulation began. They now stood in a ruined city with broken buildings. "Begin," shouted Mav. Rock moved fast, firing 3 quick shots. Han rolled behind a wall, the energy bolts hitting where he had stood. The veteran was better with the weapon, but Han watched and learned. The fight lasted only 2 minutes. Rock's final shot hit Han's shoulder, and the simulation marked him as defeated. "Primitive reflexes," Rock said as they left the platform. "You fight like your ancestors with spears." Han said nothing. His pride hurt, but he knew arguing would not help. Later that day, Han went to the ship's gym. It was empty except for one person. A woman with short black hair was moving in a slow, careful pattern. Her hands and feet followed an ancient dance. Han recognized it immediately. A traditional Korean martial art form. The woman finished her pattern and turned. She looked surprised to see Han. "Another human," she said. "I didn't know there were others on this ship." "Lieutenant Han, Korean Space Defense Force," he said with a small bow. "Specialist Tai," she replied, returning the bow. "Also Korean SDF. I've been here 6 months." Han looked at the practice sword on the bench beside her. It was not an Alliance weapon. "You bring your own training tools?" he asked. Tai smiled. "The Alliance doesn't understand our ways. This sword belonged to my grandmother, who learned from her grandmother. 500 years of tradition. The aliens think such things are useless," Han said. "Let them think that." Ta picked up the sword. "My family were Hwarang in the old times. Warriors with honor and skill. The Alliance has amazing weapons, but they forget that the fighter matters more than the fight tool." Han watched as she demonstrated a complex sword pattern. Her movements were perfect, each step placed with care. "Why train in old ways when we have new technology?" Han asked, testing her. Tai stopped and looked at him. "Because technology can fail. Weapons can break. But what is in here," she touched her head, "and here," she touched her heart, "cannot be taken away." Their conversation was interrupted when the door opened. Rock and 2 other veteran officers entered. They stopped when they saw Ta's sword. "What is this?" Rock laughed. "Are you playing with toys?" Ta calmly placed her sword back in its case, just keeping old skills alive. "Humans and their legends," said one of the other veterans. "They believe stories about single warriors defeating armies. Because such stories inspire us," Ta said. "They teach us that courage matters more than strength." Rock made a dismissive sound. "Save your legends for children. Real combat is not about swords and honor. It is about superior firepower and technology." After the veterans left, Han turned to Ta. "You made them uncomfortable." "Good," she said. "People fear what they don't understand. And they really don't understand us." Han smiled. "Commander Sol said the same thing. He told me a day would come when the Alliance would learn the truth about Earth's warrior past." "Your commander is wise," Ta said. "Would you like to train with me? Not with their weapons, but with ours." Han nodded. "I would be honored." As they began to practice, Han felt something he had not felt since leaving Earth. Pride. The alarm woke Han from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his small room on the asterisk Eternal Light asterisk. "All combat personnel report to the main deck immediately," said a voice over the speakers. Han dressed quickly and ran through the corridors. When he reached the main deck, hundreds of Alliance soldiers were already gathered. Ta stood near the front. They had trained together for 2 weeks now, sharing the old fighting ways when no one was watching. Admiral Jex, the ship's commander, stepped onto the raised platform. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he looked at the gathered troops. "We have received an emergency signal," he said. "The mining colony on planet Varus has been attacked by harvesters." A quiet wave of fear moved through the crowd. Han had heard about the harvesters in briefings. They were a mysterious species that attacked without warning, taking resources and leaving destruction. "The harvesters have new technology," Admiral Jex continued. "They use energy disruption fields that can shut down our weapons and shields." The screen behind him showed images of a colony in ruins. Alliance soldiers lay dead, their advanced weapons useless beside them. "We will send a strike team to Varus," said the Admiral. "Your mission is to protect the remaining colonists and stop the harvester attack." Han felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Rock. "Looks like you'll see real combat, human," the veteran said. "Not your training games." "We all fight the same enemy," Han replied. Rock laughed. "But not with the same skills. This is why your Earth legends are just stories. Your heroes never faced enemies like the harvesters." Later, Han and 30 others were chosen for the strike team. Ta was among them, as was Rock, who would lead the mission. They gathered in the ship's weapons room to prepare. "Take extra power cells for your blasters," Rock ordered. "The disruption fields may drain them quickly." Han chose his weapons carefully. He took the standard Alliance blaster, but also hid a combat knife in his boot. Todd caught his eye across the room and nodded slightly. She understood. As they boarded the small attack ship that would take them to Varus, Han sat next to Ta. "Are you afraid?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she answered. "But fear is normal. My grandmother taught me that courage is not about feeling no fear, but about acting despite it." "My grandfather said something similar," Han replied. "He fought in the last Earth War before the world peace. He said a warrior must make friends with fear." Their conversation stopped when Rock approached. The veteran officer checked their equipment with critical eyes. "Your blaster is set incorrectly," he told Ta. "Let me fix it." As Rock adjusted her weapon, he noticed the small bag at her side. "What's in there?" Ta hesitated. "Personal items." Rock opened the bag before she could stop him. He pulled out her family's sword, now broken down into smaller pieces that could be quickly assembled. "This," he laughed, holding up a piece. "You bring a sword to fight harvesters." The other aliens turned to look. Some laughed, others looked confused. "It's a backup," Ta said calmly, taking the pieces back. "A useless backup," Rock said. "No Earth legend will save you when the harvesters come." He turned to the others. "Remember this when the fighting starts. Trust your training and your technology, not myths and ancient weapons." The attack ship shuddered as it entered jump space. Through the window, Han could see stars stretching into lines. They were on their way to battle. Han closed his eyes and remembered his grandfather's stories. Tales of Korean warriors who fought against overwhelming odds, of heroes who used skill and courage when strength was not enough. "Lieutenant," Rock called from the front of the ship, "come review the attack plan." As Han walked forward, he caught Ta's eye again. She touched the bag with her sword pieces and nodded. A silent message passed between them. Some legends, they both knew, contained more truth than others realized. The attack ship landed with a hard bump. Han grabbed his seat to stay upright. Through the small window, he could see the mining colony of Varus. Many buildings were broken. Smoke rose from the main control center. "Team 1, secure the landing area," Rock ordered. "Team 2, follow me to the colony center." Han and Ta were in Team 2. They checked their weapons and followed Rock outside. The air smelled of burned metal and dust. It was too quiet. "Life signs ahead," said one of the alien soldiers, looking at a small scanner. "Could be survivors or harvesters." They moved carefully between damaged buildings. Han stayed close to Ta. He noticed she kept one hand near the bag with her sword pieces. "Movement," shouted a soldier at the front. From behind a fallen wall, 3 figures appeared. They were not human or any Alliance species Han knew. Their bodies looked like a mix of flesh and machine, with long arms ending in sharp claws. Harvesters. Open fire, Rock commanded. The Alliance soldiers raised their blasters and fired. Bright energy bolts shot toward the harvesters. But before the bolts hit, they faded and disappeared. Disruption field active, someone shouted. The harvesters moved fast. They reached the first line of soldiers in seconds. Sharp claws cut through armor like it was paper. 3 Alliance soldiers fell before they could react. Fall back, Rock ordered. His own blaster fired weak, useless bolts. Han felt a strange heaviness in his weapon. The power was draining quickly. He dropped the useless blaster and pulled the knife from his boot. Beside him, Tai quickly assembled her sword pieces. A harvester turned toward them, its glowing eyes fixed on Han. It charged. Han stood his ground, knife ready. When the creature reached him, he stepped to the side. A move from old Korean fighting styles. The harvester's momentum carried it past him. Han's knife cut deep into its side as it passed. The creature made a high-pitched cry and fell. Black liquid leaked from its wound. They can be hurt, Han shouted. Physical weapons still work. Across the street, Tai faced 2 harvesters. Her sword moved in a blur of practiced strikes. The first creature lost an arm, then its head. The second backed away, seeming surprised by the human skill. The remaining Alliance soldiers watched in shock. Their advanced weapons were useless, but the 2 humans with simple blades were fighting effectively. Rock stared at Tai as she finished the second harvester with a perfect strike to its chest. The sword moved like it was part of her arm, each movement precise and deadly. More coming, warned a soldier. Down the street, at least 20 harvesters were moving toward them. We need shelter, Rock said, his voice tight with anger and surprise. Fall back to the colony's defense bunker. They ran through the streets, the harvesters following close behind. Han and Tai took turns covering the retreat, their blades keeping the enemy at bay long enough for the others to reach safety. Inside the bunker, Rock secured the heavy door. The room was dark except for emergency lights. About 20 colony survivors huddled in one corner, fear clear on their faces. Our weapons are nearly useless, said an alien officer. The disruption field is stronger than we expected. Rock looked at Han and Ta. His expression mixed confusion and reluctant respect. Your primitive weapons work, he admitted, but we cannot defeat so many harvesters with just 2 blades. Ta cleaned her sword with a cloth. In my family's history, there are stories of small groups defeating much larger forces. It's about strategy, not just strength. Earth legends, Rock said, but his tone lacked its usual mockery. Perhaps there is some use for them here. Han checked his knife for damage. The harvesters expected us to rely on energy weapons. They didn't plan for physical attacks. A message came through their communication devices, broken by static. Strike team. Location. Cannot. Assistance. 3 days. 3 days until help arrives, Rock said. We must survive until then. He looked at Han and Tai again. It seems we may need to learn some of your Earth legends after all. The bunker was quiet except for the soft sounds of metal on metal. Han watched as Tai sharpened her sword. They had been trapped for 12 hours now. Outside, harvesters patrolled the streets. Rock approached them, sitting down heavily on a nearby crate. The veteran officer looked tired. We checked the colony systems, he said. The harvesters have set up a main disruption device in the control center. It's why none of our tech works properly. Can we destroy it? Han asked. If we can reach it, Rock answered. But there are too many harvesters between here and there. Tai stopped sharpening her blade. We don't need to fight them all. We just need to reach the device. Han nodded, understanding her thinking. A small team could move more quietly than a large one. Rock looked doubtful. Stealth. Against harvesters. Their sensors will detect us. Their sensors look for energy signatures and heat patterns, Han said. things that match Alliance technology. But there are older ways to move unseen. Earth legends again. Rock's voice had less mockery now, more curiosity. Not legends, Ta said firmly. History. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small book. The cover was worn from years of use. My family has kept these teachings for 20 generations. She opened the book to show faded drawings of warriors in black clothing, moving through forests and mountains. The way of the Sulsa, she explained. Special warriors who could move without being seen or heard. They served the kings of old Korea. Han leaned forward with interest. My grandfather told stories of them. They could enter enemy territory, complete their mission, and leave without detection. Rock studied the drawings. And you know these methods. I've trained in them since childhood, Ta said. The Hwarang were my family's main tradition, but they respected all Korean martial ways. Han touched the book carefully. We would need special equipment. We can make what we need, Ta said. Dark clothes, soft shoes, ways to move without sound. Rock stood up. This sounds like desperate fantasy. But he looked at their blades. Your other Earth ways have proven useful. He sighed. What would this plan look like? For the next hour, they planned. Ta drew maps of the colony based on what they knew. Han suggested a route through maintenance tunnels and air ducts. They would need to move at night when fewer harvesters patrolled. 3 people, Ta said. Me, Han, and one more with technical knowledge to disable the device. A thin alien with 6 fingers raised his hand. I am tech specialist Ven. I can disable the device if we reach it. I should go too, Rock insisted. I'd lead this mission. Ta shook her head. 4 is too many. And your size would make it harder to move quietly. The Vecren was twice as large as the humans. Rock didn't like this, but he nodded. Very well. But if you're not back in 6 hours, we will try a direct assault. We cannot wait longer. As night fell, Tai opened another compartment in her bag. Inside were small containers of black paint. For your faces, she explained. To blend with shadows. Han looked at her with new respect. You came prepared for more than just sword fighting. Ta smiled slightly. A warrior prepares for all possibilities. That's what my grandmother taught me. They darkened their faces and hands. Ta showed Han and Ven how to wrap cloth around their boots to muffle sound. She demonstrated how to move with careful steps, rolling from heel to toe. The Sulsa believed in 5 principles, she said quietly. Patience, awareness, timing, breath control, and decisive action. We move only when needed and strike only once. Han practiced the walking technique. My grandfather would be proud to see these ways used again. Interesting, Ven whispered, copying their movements. Your Earth legends speak of stealth as much as combat. Because sometimes the greatest victory is the battle never fought, Tai replied. She checked her sword one last time. Are we ready? Rock opened the bunker door just enough for them to slip out. Remember, the Vecren said. 6 hours. Ta nodded. When we succeed, your weapons will work again. She didn't say if. And Han noticed that Rock didn't correct her. As they disappeared into the darkness, Rock watched with a strange expression. For the first time, he looked like he truly believed an Earth legend might save them all. It's done. Ven called out. The blue light of the generator dimmed and went out. Han's communication device immediately buzzed to life. Alliance signals were working again. He quickly contacted the bunker. Rock, can you hear me? The generator is down. We read you. Rock's voice came through clearly. Our weapons are functioning again. We're moving toward your position now. Han turned to help Tai, but stopped in shock. She stood surrounded by fallen harvesters, her sword dripping black fluid. Every enemy in the room was down. Ta's breathing was heavy, and blood ran from cuts on her arm and face, but she remained standing. Are you okay? Han asked, hurrying to her side. I'll live, she said, wiping her blade clean. Ven stared at the fallen harvesters. You defeated 15 of them. Alone. With a sword. Ta didn't answer. She looked tired but alert. We should secure this area before. A loud explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. What was that? Han asked. His communication device crackled. Lieutenant. Rock's voice was urgent. The harvesters are attacking in force. They know what you've done. Another explosion. Closer this time. We need to get back to the others, Han said. They ran from the control room into the hallway. Ahead, they could see Alliance soldiers fighting with harvesters. Energy weapons flashed, now working properly. This way, Ta said, pointing to a side passage. They moved quickly, avoiding the main battle. They turned a corner and found Rock with a group of soldiers. Good work on the generator, Rock said. His voice was tense. But the harvesters have called for reinforcements. They're bringing in something big. The ground shook beneath their feet. Through a broken wall, they could see a massive shape moving toward the colony. It looked like a giant harvester, 3 times taller than the others. A command unit, Ven said, his voice shaking. I've only seen images of them. Never thought I'd face one. Rock checked his weapon. All strike team members, fall back to Point B. We'll make our stand at the mining facility. They retreated through the colony, fighting small groups of harvesters along the way. The mining facility was a large building with thick walls. Inside, they found the rest of the strike team and the surviving colonists. Defense perimeter is set, an officer reported to Rock. But our scanners show at least 100 harvesters approaching, plus the command unit. Rock looked grim. We need to hold this position until Alliance reinforcements arrive. That's still over a day away. Han helped Ta clean and bandage her wounds. Her face was pale from blood loss. You should rest, he told her. There's no time for rest, she replied, checking her sword for damage. A soldier rushed in. The command unit is approaching. It has some kind of heavy weapon. They felt the impact before they heard it. Part of the facility's wall collapsed under the powerful blast. 3 Alliance soldiers were buried in rubble. Return fire, Rock ordered. Their weapons struck the command unit but seemed to do little damage. Its thick armor absorbed the energy bolts. We need something stronger, Rock said in frustration. Another blast hit the facility. More walls cracked. Han was thrown to the ground by the force. When he got up, he saw Rock lying nearby, badly injured. Blood poured from a wound in the veteran's side. Han and 2 others pulled Rock to safety behind a sturdy column. Our weapons aren't strong enough, Rock said, his voice weak. We can't stop that thing. Ta knelt beside them, her face thoughtful. There might be a way. Another Earth legend, Rock asked. There was no mockery in his voice now, only hope. Yes, Ta said, but this one is dangerous. She looked at Han. In the old stories, there were warriors who could defeat giant enemies by finding their weakness. Every strong thing has a weak point. And you think you can find it on the command unit? Han asked. Ta nodded. I can try, but I'll need to get close to it. That's suicide, Rock said. It's our only chance, Tay replied. She looked at the injured soldiers around them, at the frightened colonists. Sometimes one must risk everything to save many. Han recognized the words from old Korean teachings. The way of the Hwarang. I'm going with you, he said firmly. Tai smiled slightly. I was hoping you would say that. The night air was cold as Han, Tai, and Ven moved through the shadows. They stayed close to walls and under broken structures. No one spoke. They used hand signals that Tai had taught them. The colony was different at night. Strange lights came from some buildings where harvesters worked. Odd sounds echoed through empty streets. Han's heart beat fast, but he controlled his breathing as Tai had shown him. Step by careful step, they moved toward the colony center. Twice they froze as harvester patrols passed nearby. The creatures didn't see them in the darkness. Air duct ahead, Ven whispered, pointing to a small opening in a wall. Ta went first, sliding into the narrow space like water flowing into a crack. Han followed, moving as quietly as he could. Inside, the duct was tight and dark. They crawled forward on hands and knees. The control center should be 50 meters ahead, Ven said very softly. They reached a junction where several ducts met. Below them was a large room with machines and control panels. And harvesters, many harvesters. I count 15, Han breathed into Ta's ear. She nodded. Her eyes were focused on a large device in the center of the room. It pulsed with blue light. The disruption generator, Ven confirmed. Tai studied the room's layout. We need a distraction, she said. Han pointed to the far side of the room where fuel cells were stored. Those would make noise if they exploded. Ven pulled a small tool from his pocket. I can cause a power surge in that section. Do it, Ta said. When they move to check it, we drop down and head for the generator. Ven disables it while Han and I guard him. Ven worked with the tool, pointing it at the fuel cell area. After a moment, sparks flew from a control panel there. Alarms sounded. Most of the harvesters moved toward the disturbance. Now, Ta said. They pushed open the duct cover and dropped silently to the floor. They stayed low and moved quickly behind equipment, getting closer to the generator. Only 2 harvesters remained near it. Ta drew her sword and looked at Han. He nodded, knife ready. They attacked at the same moment from different angles. The harvesters had no time to call for help. Han's knife found a weak spot where the creature's neck met its shoulder. Ta's sword cut cleanly through the other harvester's middle. Quick, Han told Ven. We don't have much time. Ven hurried to the generator and began working on its control panel. This will take a few minutes, he said. We don't have minutes, Han warned. At the far end of the room, the other harvesters were returning. Ta stepped forward, moving into the open. Keep working, she told Ven. I'll hold them off. There are too many, Han said, moving to join her. She put a hand on his chest. Protect Ven. Make sure he finishes. Her eyes were calm and certain. This is what I trained for. Before Han could argue, Ta moved toward the approaching harvesters. Her sword caught the blue light as she raised it. The first harvester rushed her. Ta's blade flashed once. The creature fell. 2 more attacked from different sides. She spun between them, her sword a blur of motion. Both dropped to the floor. Han watched in amazement. Ta moved like water, flowing around attacks, her blade always finding its target. She never wasted a movement. Every step had purpose. Every strike was deadly. The remaining harvesters surrounded her. Han wanted to help, but he stayed with Ven, knowing their mission had to succeed. She fights like no one I've ever seen, Ven whispered, his hands still working on the generator. Ta faced 5 harvesters at once. Her sword cut through the air in patterns Han recognized from their training. Ancient Korean sword techniques, preserved through generations. 1 harvester fell, then another. A third managed to scratch her arm, drawing blood. Ta didn't slow down. She moved faster, her face set with determination. Han realized he was watching a legend come to life. Not a myth or story, but the real thing. A warrior using skills perfected over centuries, facing impossible odds. Almost done, Ven said. Han nodded, his eyes still on Ta. She had defeated 12 harvesters now, and stood facing the last 3. Blood ran down her arm, but her sword held steady. In that moment, Han understood why Earth's legends had survived so long. Because they were true. I can't let you both go, Rock said, wincing from his wound. We need someone to lead if you fail. Han and Ta looked at each other. After a moment, Han nodded. You're right, he said. One of us should stay. I'll go, Ta said firmly. I've trained for this my whole life. Han wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. This was her moment, what all her years of practice had prepared her for. Take this, Han said, handing her his knife. Just in case. Tai tucked the knife into her belt. She checked her sword one last time. How will you get close enough? Rock asked. The old way, Tai answered. Distraction, then speed. Rock turned to his soldiers. Prepare to give covering fire on my signal. Target the command unit's weapon systems. Han helped Ta prepare. She removed her heavier armor pieces for better movement. She tied her hair back tightly and checked her boots. Remember what my grandmother taught us, she told Han. The moment between moments, the space between breaths. That's where victory lives. Han nodded. I'll be watching. When you find the weak point, I'll leave the attack to help you. Another blast hit the facility. The walls wouldn't hold much longer. It's time, Ta said. She moved to the broken doorway and looked out at the battlefield. The command unit stood 50 meters away, towering over everything. Smaller harvesters moved around it like worker bees around their queen. Rock raised his hand. Fire. All Alliance weapons fired at once. Energy bolts hit the command unit from multiple directions. It turned toward them, distracted by the attack. Tai ran. She moved faster than Han had ever seen anyone move. She stayed low, zigzagging between debris and fallen structures. The harvesters didn't notice her at first, focused on the energy attacks. Han watched through a broken window, his heart racing. Tai was halfway to the command unit now. A harvester spotted her and moved to intercept. Without slowing down, Ta's sword flashed once. The harvester fell. She's incredible, Ven whispered beside Han. Two more harvesters attacked Ta. She slid under the first one's reach and cut through its legs. The second swung at her head. She ducked and spun, her blade cutting a perfect circle that severed the creature's arm. Han activated his communication device. Keep firing. She's almost there. The Alliance weapons continued their barrage. The command unit's attention stayed on the facility, its massive weapon charging for another blast. Tai reached the command unit's legs. She was so small compared to it, like a child next to a building. She circled it quickly, examining its structure. Han could see her looking for something. She stopped at the back of the command unit. Her hand touched a spot where several metal plates joined together. She had found it. The weak point. There, Han shouted into his device. All fire on that rear joint section. The Alliance soldiers adjusted their aim. Energy bolts struck the area Tai had identified. The command unit made a loud screeching sound. But it wasn't enough. The joint was damaged but still holding. The command unit turned, trying to see what was attacking it from behind. Tai didn't hesitate. She climbed up the back of the massive creature, using the damaged plates as handholds. Harvesters saw her and tried to follow, but she moved too quickly. She reached the damaged joint and plunged her sword deep into the gap. The command unit shuddered. Ta pulled her sword out and struck again, this time at a different angle. Han could see she was following a pattern. Not random attacks, but precise strikes at specific points. It was a technique from her family's book, the 5-point strike, designed to bring down larger opponents by attacking connected pressure points. The command unit's movements became jerky. It tried to reach behind itself but couldn't bend properly. Ta continued climbing higher, striking at new weak points as she found them. Look, Ven pointed. The smaller harvesters are falling back. It was true. The regular harvesters were retreating, moving away from their damaged leader. Tai reached the command unit's head. She stood on top of it, sword raised high. With all her strength, she drove the blade down into a small opening where the head connected to the body. The command unit froze. Then, slowly, it began to fall. Tai jumped clear, rolling when she hit the ground to absorb the impact. The command unit crashed to the earth with a sound like thunder. The battlefield went silent. 3 days later, Han stood on the landing pad as Alliance reinforcement ships arrived. The mining colony was safe. Most buildings were damaged, but they could be fixed. Most importantly, the people were alive. Han watched as medical teams helped the wounded onto ships. Rock was among them, his chest wrapped in bandages. The veteran officer saw Han and motioned him over. "Lieutenant," Rock said, his voice weaker than before. "Where is Specialist Ta?" "Helping the colonists," Han answered. "She refuses to rest." Rock nodded slowly. "I have sent the battle recordings to Alliance Command. All of them. Including the footage of Ta fighting the Harvesters and defeating the command unit." Han raised his eyebrows in surprise. "I thought you might keep that quiet." "Why would I?" Rock asked. "It was the most amazing thing I have ever seen." He shifted on the stretcher, wincing at the pain. "I was wrong about Earth legends. They aren't just stories. They're history. Knowledge passed down through time." "I'm glad you see that now," Han said. "The Alliance has forgotten something important," Rock continued. "We depend so much on our technology that we've lost other skills. Ta showed us what one trained warrior can do when technology fails." A tall officer in an admiral's uniform approached them. Han stood straight and saluted. "Lieutenant Han," the admiral said. "I've reviewed the initial reports from this mission. Extraordinary work." He looked around. "Where is Specialist Ta? I would like to meet this legend walker." "I'll find her, sir," Han said. He found Ta helping rebuild a wall. Despite her bandaged wounds, she worked steadily. Han told her about the Admiral's request. "They want to talk to me," she asked, surprised. "You defeated a command unit with a sword," Han said with a smile. "People notice things like that." Ta cleaned her hands and followed Han to the landing pad. The Admiral and several high-ranking officers waited there. Rock was still present, refusing to leave until the ceremony was complete. "Specialist Tay," the Admiral said, bowing slightly. "Your actions saved this colony and everyone in it." Ta bowed deeply in return. "I only did what I was trained to do, sir." "With a sword," one of the officers said in amazement, "against a command unit. The way of the Horing teaches that size and strength aren't everything," Tai explained. "Finding the weakness is more important than having the biggest weapon." The Admiral nodded thoughtfully. "The Alliance Defense Council has reviewed the battle recordings. We've decided to create a new training program. We call it Traditional Combat Methods. We would like you to lead it." Ta looked surprised. "Me, sir?" "Yes. Too many of our soldiers rely only on technology. But what happens when technology fails? We need your knowledge." Rock spoke up from his stretcher. "We laughed at Earth legends. We were wrong." He looked at Ta with respect. One legend walked into battle, and it changed everything. 1 week later, Han visited the new training center on the Alliance station. Inside a large room, 30 alien soldiers of different species stood in straight lines. At the front, Ta demonstrated a basic sword pattern. "The weapon is an extension of yourself," she explained, "not separate. Feel its balance, its weight." The aliens tried to copy her movements. Some did well, others struggled, but all paid close attention. Han smiled as he watched. On the wall behind Ta hung her family's sword and an old book of Korean martial arts. Below them was a new plaque with words in both Korean and the Alliance common language. The legends of Earth were not myths but methods, not stories but strategies. Here we honor them by learning their truths. Rock, now recovered enough to walk with a cane, came to stand beside Han. "A year ago, I would have laughed at this scene," the veteran said. "Now I understand. Your people kept these skills alive through stories when others would have forgotten them." Han nodded. "That's the real purpose of legends, to carry wisdom through time until it's needed again." Together they watched as Earth's ancient knowledge found new life among the stars, no longer laughed at but respected, and learned by allies from across the galaxy. The legend had become real, and the galaxy would never be the same.